am a life-sized golden lion carved from oak. Paul Sheppard used plaster to fashion my mane and make me look valiant. Someone told me that I have royal blood in my veins, so I always try to behave as a royal lion should. My story starts in 1824, when Thomas Sheppard, the brother of Paul Sheppard, bought property at the southwest corner of what was then Lansing and is now the intersection of Yonge Street and Sheppard Avenue. He built a hotel the following year, calling it the Golden Lion. The hotel was a large, square-frame building that could accommodate a score of people, with verandas on its east and south sides. There were extensive stables and barns to the south and sheds that could accommodate a dozen horses and vehicles to the north. I stood over the main doorway. When I lived at the Golden Lion Hotel, I liked it best of all because there was so much company. The hotel was a popular sight, and we had visitors every day. It had a dance hall built over the driving sheds, and parties of young people came from Toronto to the inn for dances. My master, Mr. Sheppard, used to try his hand at playing several instruments, particularly the bassoon. Cheese and crackers were served free in the bar, and the following ditty was sung. Here am I, on my way to Zion. I find my sons, in the Golden Lion. The stagecoaches would stop at the Golden Lion Hotel almost every day, and I became acquainted with the drivers and some of the passengers. The first stagecoaches I remembered were run by George Plater and his sons. It was sold to William Weller of Coburg in 1833. George Plater and his family settled in York in 1794. It is said that he placed the first bridge across the Don River by felling a butternut tree across the river. The farmers used to haul their grain and other produce down Yonge Street to the city, as they said this was the best road. Often on the way home, the farmers would stop at the Golden Lion Hotel to get warmed up, as they said it was a cold drive from the St. Lawrence market. I used to hear them talking about prices and the poor weather for crops. Several times I heard my master, Mr. Thomas Sheppard, talking about the rising cost of everything. He said that when he took out his tavern license for the first time in December 1822, it cost him £6. In January 1831, he had to pay £7 and 10 pence. I was sorry to think he was disturbed. Every farmer had a dog of some description, so in time I came to know all the farm dogs for miles around. Often I wished to meet another lion, and although I heard there were 2 or 3 in Toronto, and sometimes a visiting circus lion, I never met one of them. In September 1833, Sheppard held a pigeon shooting match at the hotel. About 300 passenger or wild pigeons were provided for the occasion, and 3 prizes were given: £10 for the best shot, £5 for the second best, and a rifle for third place. One day I heard there was a lot of trouble. Someone named William Lyon Mackenzie was dissatisfied with the government and was called a rebel. The Golden Lion Hotel became a meeting place for William Lyon Mackenzie and his supporters, called the Reform Party. The 1834 convention was held at the hotel. No doubt, the Golden Lion Hotel played a part in the 1837 rebellion. On the night of December 7, 1837, Mackenzie obtained a horse from the Golden Lion Hotel in order to escape government forces following the burning of Montgomery's Tavern. Dick Frizzle, who had ridden into Toronto from Thornhill to give the alarm of the uprising to the government, stopped at the Golden Lion Hotel for dinner with friends on his way home on December 7th. Some of our neighbors joined the rebels, so I felt obliged to adopt a sympathetic attitude. One neighbor was Mr. Gibson, a rebel sympathizer. His wooden house was burned down by government soldiers. Gibson had to flee, and a $2,000 reward was offered for capturing him by the government. Another Sheppard family had a farm nearby but was not related to my master. Some of these Sheppard boys joined the radicals and were captured after the trouble at Montgomery's Tavern. Thomas and Michael Sheppard were sentenced to transportation for life, but escaped from Kingston along with John Montgomery and several others. I heard them talk about it after they came back from the United States. They said Mr. Montgomery broke his leg when escaping over the wall at the jail, and that a heavy rainstorm in the night helped to hide their escape. Just when I thought things would calm down, we had one of the worst times of my life. It started as a political meeting of several hundred reformers at the Golden Lion Hotel. Robert Baldwin was chairman. When the meeting was nicely started, Sheriff Jarvis came with a crowd of men, attacked the reformers, chased them through the fields, and of course broke up the meeting. I don't want to see another night like that one in 1840. I heard that some of the men were tried later at the home district assizes on charges of rioting and assault. Sometime later, there was plenty of talk about a wood-burning invention that would run on tracks without any horses or oxen to pull it. Some even called it an iron horse. Of course, I had to take this on faith, as I never saw the engine. Then the day came when this engine made its first trip from Toronto to Matchell's Corners, Aurora, on May 16, 1853. After that, there were not as many stagecoaches on Yonge Street. Stagecoaches gave way to streetcars. The streetcars carried mail, newspapers, freight, and people and ran fast along the west side of Yonge Street. Finally, stagecoaches disappeared from the street altogether. I missed my old friends, the stage drivers and horses. One sad day, I heard that my master had died. And then, the hotel was sold in 1870. Over the next few decades, I got to know different owners of the Golden Lion Hotel. I remembered one of the Golden Lion Hotel owners who considered himself a crack shot with a rifle and was also the proud possessor of a fine gold watch. He liked to make a wager with customers regarding their accuracy with a rifle. In one of those contests, the first shot by the customer completely unsprung the owner's fine gold watch. The innkeeper naturally decided to hold no further contests of this kind. The battered timepiece hung for many years over the bar as a grim reminder of that black day. In the early 20th century, the hotel became the residence of the Reverend Thomas W. Pickett, a retired Methodist minister. I like my new master very much. On Sundays, a Sunday school conducted in connection with the Willowdale Episcopal Methodist Church was held in the former bar. This became the nucleus of the Lansing United Church. On their way to Sunday school, the children would sit on my back and pretend to ride all over the world. Sometimes in the warm weather, I found this very trying, but I always tried to behave as a royal lion should. Reverend T. W. Pickett was a liberal in politics and used to say that at the time of the Trouble, William Lyon Mackenzie slept at the Golden Lion Hotel. I did not like to tell my new master that many people claimed Mr. Mackenzie had slept at their homes during his escape. We should be careful about such claims. But we are certain that after that dreadful engagement at Montgomery's Tavern, many of the old neighbors had to run for their lives. Mr. Mackenzie escaped up Yonge Street, overtook Colonel Van Egmond and some others below the Golden Lion Hotel, and turned westward. My second home, Oriole Lodge, George S. Henry's home. Then one day I heard that my kind master, Reverend T. W. Pickett, had died, but he decided to give me to his daughter, Mrs. George S. Henry. Soon, I met my new master and her husband, Mr. Henry. Some people called him George S. Henry. Mr. Henry decided to take me to his place to live, and so I stayed on the back veranda of the Henry home for many years. I found out later that Mr. Henry was the 10th Premier of Ontario from 1930 to 1934. The house was named Oriole Lodge for the abundance of orioles in the adjoining orchard. It's located near the intersection of Sheppard Street and Don Mills Road. Of course, I missed my old friends from the Golden Lion Hotel, but I enjoyed the company of the 4 Henry children. One day there was a storm with great gusts of wind that blew me off the veranda and broke my leg. My kind master had it fixed, but on damp days I feel a touch of rheumatism there. After my leg was mended, my master decided to have me go over. My coat was beige, and the man touched up my mane with an orange color, so I can't say I liked the effect altogether. Sometimes some farm dogs would come around and tell me the news. They said there were new things on the roads called automobiles, and that my master was called the father of good roads in Ontario. These automobiles run so fast that the farm dogs complain they can't always keep up with them, so at times the dogs take a ride inside. The dogs tell me they feel this is beneath the dignity of a real dog. One day I found out that my master, Mr. Henry, was a conservative in politics, the opposite of his father-in-law, Reverend T. W. Pickett, so now I met entirely different people. Then one day I heard my master say that he had decided to give me to some people called the York Pioneers. I was very sad, wondering how I had offended him, as I never mentioned politics. Perhaps it was my orange-colored mane that he didn't like. My third home, the Sharon Temple Museum. My new home surprised me very much. It was called a temple, but reminded me of a wedding cake, the kind I saw sometimes at the Golden Lion Hotel when we had a wedding. The people did not look like the pioneers I used to know, who wore bulky homespun clothes and, in the winter, buffalo and coonskin coats. Someone said these York pioneers came up from Toronto to run the temple, not as a temple, but as a museum. This was very puzzling, but they put me inside the front door and said they would have to clean me up. Someone made me over gold color, so now I feel better without my mane being that orange color. This is the first time I have lived indoors, and while I don't mind the summers and all the visitors asking silly questions, I miss my old friends from the Golden Lion Hotel and the Henry children. Be that as it may, I always conduct myself in a dignified manner in the temple. One day, some retired farmers visited the temple to see the pioneer farm implements and said they were surprised to see me there. One farmer told another that when he used to stop in at the Golden Lion Hotel on his way up Yonge Street from the St. Lawrence Market, I used to wave goodbye. In the autumn, these York pioneers locked the front door of the temple, and I do not see one of them until spring. Someone said they live in comfortable houses in Toronto for the winter. There is no one to tell me the news, and I am lonely for the first time. I miss the rumbling of the wagons and the teamsters cracking their whips. In the winter, I used to enjoy hearing the sleigh runners squeaking on the snow on a frosty day and the sound of sleigh bells. All that has changed now, and some York pioneers hung some sleigh bells in the temple. The bells are antiques now, so they say, but sometime in the winter, when I am alone, I reach up and shake the bells to hear their gay tinkle again. One spring, 3 of these so-called pioneers came and said the window sashes would have to be painted because the wood was shrinking and letting in the rain. I could have told them that, but they didn't ask me, and they often came fussing around the temple once the weather was warm. The other day, I heard something that disturbed me very much. Some of the York pioneers were here in the temple at Sharon and happened to mention that they were thinking of getting rid of me because I take up too much space. I was downcast to think that they could regard me as such old lumber. But if they are determined that I must go, I shall go with my head held high. Back to North York. This brings me back to where I started, when the York pioneers said they would have to get rid of me. The York pioneers even said they might send me to a place called the North York Public Library. I hope it will be livelier than the temple. But wherever I go, I shall go with my head held high, in a manner befitting a royal lion. Fortunately, the North York Historical Society, NYHS, had been founded that very year, 1960, and kindly came to my rescue. It was believed that I should be restored to my North York habitat, where I had been happy for so many years and where I was lionized as a North York Heritage Special Attraction. In 1961, the nice folks at the society took ownership of me. They knew I was unhappy that I had been painted beige with an orange mane when I was living with the Henrys and had me painted gold again. They also told me that when North York became a township in 1922, the Golden Lion Hotel was used to house the municipal offices for a short time. Unfortunately, it was torn down in 1933. So, I could never go back to the Golden Lion Hotel. I had been sad about this for a long time. They stored me at the just opened First North York Library, the Gladys Allison Building at Yonge Street and Park Home Avenue. Mrs. Allison started North York's library system. People call her North York's First Lady of the Library. I was locked away under the stage of the auditorium and only allowed out on certain special occasions. Nobody passed by, and not even a child tried to sit on my back. It was very humiliating for a lion of such royal descent. However, I weathered the bad time and emerged as majestic as ever. About 10 years later, the society transferred me across Park Home to the historic Gibson House, which it had helped save from demolition in the 1960s, making it a heritage museum open to the public. I was installed at the back, near the entrance to the kitchen. Kids climbed onto my back to ride me again. Some grown-ups butted out their cigarettes on me, which made me want to roar mightily in protest. But I am royalty, so I maintained a calm, regal silence. When my stay at Gibson House ended around 1987, I was moved back across Park Home to the new Novotel Hotel, which put me on display in a glass case in the lobby. But when the hotel was being renovated in the late 1990s, I wasn't wanted anymore. I was very sad and didn't know where my real home was. Even though I had been back in North York for a long time, I still seemed to be wandering around with no real permanent home. At that time, I used to hear people talk about the name Mel Lastman and call him the mayor of North York. They said he was the leader in transferring North York from a sleepy Toronto suburb into an uptown downtown. But what I didn't expect was that these changes to North York would also affect me in the end. Mr. Lastman successfully promoted the creation of the North York City Center. The new North York Central Library was built inside and replaced the Gladys Allison building on the same site. It opened on May 13, 1987. My permanent home, the North York Central Library. The NYHS arranged with the new North York Central Library, which had replaced the Gladys Allison building on the same site, to take me, and I moved in the weekend of July 4, 1997. I remember it well. NYHS members and librarians helped me settle in. I was placed in a glass case on the 6th floor, adjacent to the elevator. The 6th floor is the top floor of the library, with the name Gladys Allison Canadiana Room, in honor of Gladys Allison, the driving force behind the establishment of North York's excellent public library system. Since then, North York Central Library has become my permanent home. Every day, many people pass by me in this location, but few stop to chat or even to read the inscription on the glass cage. And nobody could pat my glorious mane, but then again, nobody could put out cigarettes on my back. I remained there until the fall of 2019, when I was removed from my cage for restoration work. I received a condition assessment and special treatment from conservator Susan Maltby. Surface grime and debris on my body were removed, and I shined again. I have always had good health and don't look a day older than when I started my life at the Golden Lion Hotel close to 200 years ago. Then, I lived in what will be the North York History Room on the 5th floor, organized by the North York Historical Society, free from my cage and looking like new until 2022. Whenever the night is quiet, I often think of the Golden Lion Hotel, just a few blocks from here. I wondered if anyone else still remembered the Golden Lion Hotel as well as I do. It was a significant landmark and stagecoach stop in Yonge Street's early days, in addition to being my favorite home. What happened later completely dispelled my worries. On Saturday, May 4, 2019, the North York Historical Society joined Councillor John Fillion and Heritage Toronto to unveil a new historical plaque for the Golden Lion Hotel. The plaque tells the story of the Golden Lion Hotel and keeps North York's history alive. It was placed near the intersection of Yonge Street and Sheppard Avenue. In 2020, a talented graphic designer named Cheryl Suchdeva designed a new logo for the North York Historical Society. The logo features my image in front of the Golden Lion Hotel. All of this comforts me. In 2022, North York Central Library built me a new home of my own. A beautiful glass room is located on the 5th floor of the library, near the stairs. If you take the stairs to the 5th floor, you will see me first. North York has changed a lot over the years, but I haven't. Please visit me. I will tell you the story of North York in the old days.